Since the reveal of the Endwalker trailer on February 5th, 2021, many have debated over what the lyrics are saying. Like the first Shadowbringers trailer, we can expect to hear a less distorted and less cut version come FanFest on May 15th. But until then, we, like many others, have spent much time diving into the music of Endwalker and revealing what we've found. Both Bonnie and I have conducted independent analyses of the music, and, for completion's sake, we have also included a transcription posted on the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit by user MintT and included each transcription at the end of the video.
Hello everyone, Bonnie here with my take on the possible lyrics for the Endwalker teaser. For a little bit of context, I do have some musical background, primarily singing. At present, I work on editing audiobooks from time to time, so I'm fairly familiar with tonal differences from accents, as well as how pronunciations and enunciations can differ when you're singing words. As an example, and heard commonly, especially in rock music, my often turns into something like ma. Alterations like that are something I'm keeping an ear out for when doing early analysis of music such as this. Also, of lesser note, I am using in-ear headphones, which means I will hear more variations and subtleties than you would with, standard headphones or speakers, especially if you're like me and you usually get, $10 speakers or headphones from Walmart that really don't sound so great. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the program I used when, analyzing the lyrics for Endwalker. This is Ableton, the program I usually use for audiobook editing. I can easily swap between different audio tracks or move pieces around, which is why I prefer it when I'm analyzing music. Audacity would also work if you want to do something like this. This is just the program I'm used to. So the way I started off by listening to the song multiple times on loop in the trailer, which, I think that's true of most of us at this point. Then I started listening to the clean version on loop, which, if you haven't seen the clean version, that's posted on Twitter originally, but has also, of course, made its way to YouTube. Even with the trailer version, there were sections of the lyrics I was quite confident on, but the clean audio helped greatly with that, even if in some cases it wasn't the lyrics themselves that were clarified, but instead it was the syllable count. For example, some of the lines have a very distinct 7-beat pattern or 7-syllable pattern to them. Once I had a rough draft of what I could make out, I started isolating sections that were giving me trouble so that I could loop them. That's what you see in audio track 3 here, which is the light yellow one. By isolating sections, this allows me to set individual clips as a loop, which you can see, if I do that, I can right click or Control L and loop an individual section. Which makes my life significantly easier. By isolating sections, this allows me to set individual clips as a loop so I can repeatedly listen to it and try to make it out. Sometimes I'll take that a step further and select a point in the track and just spam spacebar to stop from a specific point if that's, the first word that's giving me trouble. Which, let's be real, there's a couple places like that in here. Of note, I think, would be this one. Because the first word there sounds like it has 3-ish syllables, but the music is so loud you can't really hear it. But by looping it, I can just beat it into my brain until either I have something, I have half of something, or I'm still just as confused as before. But at least it's simple. After going through the lyrics this way multiple times over the course of days, months, yeah, months at this point, because I want to make sure I'm fresh when I'm listening to something. I don't want to sit here for, 6 hours and listen to it on repeat. Because I will do that, but there comes a point when you're not really clear enough anymore and it just kind of starts to blur together. Like with anything else that, you might focus strongly on, there comes a point where it's just not so great anymore. First of all, I want to say that I've come to the conclusion that the lyrics we got in the teaser are from varying points of the song and don't necessarily come in chronological order. They've done this in the past, such as with the Shadowbringer teaser trailers versus the full trailer, and it can be difficult to piece together in these early stages. Secondly, I'd like to point out that the vocalist we have here is unlikely the final vocalist. This is something they also did in Shadowbringers, where the teaser version of the theme uses a different singer entirely, or is so heavily processed that it doesn't sound like Jason Charles Miller anymore. With that out of the way, this is my best guess at the lyrics for the Endwalker theme as it currently stands. So, the lyrics that we do have in the trailer, the first verse, I'm pretty sure, is I don't live, but I don't die. Coldly drifting, reignite. Floating, floundering, biding time. Marching forward in moonlight. Marching forward in moonlight is very distinct to me. I've seen a couple of other takes, but the syllable count doesn't match up to me for me in a lot of those cases. The second set of lyrics that we get after that is just two sentences, if you will, but I'm not sure where they actually fit in the song because they could come after that first verse or they could be from somewhere else entirely. It's really hard to say at this point since we can't nail down for certain a pattern. But those appear to be Wanderer and Shadows Clash, Guiding Footfalls, the End in Ash. I'm not 100% confident on the first sentence there. Because Wanderer is, if that is what it is, it's really, really distorted. Like, that's really hard to hear. And Shadows Clash is really clear to me, but that first word, or first two words even, since it's so many syllables, it's iffy. So after Guiding Footfalls, the End in Ash, we get to another pair of sentences, which you can see here. I've got this one isolated of the two sentences. This is the first sentence of the pair, where it sounds like burn the lyre out within a day to me, but it's really rough. Burn is very clear to me, and within a day is extremely clear to me, but that word in the middle is not. What do you guys think? The second sentence here, however, is very clear to me. which is through our echoes the angels reign. Which I find that very interesting from a lore standpoint, because we have this kind of setup that the Convocation of 14 and the ancient Amortines in general are like almost these fallen angel figures where summoning Zodiark is their original sin. But we could also look at Hydaelyn and Zodiark as the angel figures, especially with how they're depicted in the Raktika murals, where they kind of have wings. And then we see that again in the depictions of Hydaelyn in Amano artwork for 1.0, I think 2.0 as well. And then with the Endwalker concept art, we see her, with feathery wings. And then Zodiark, I think, also has wings. So it's very interesting to me that this line may be through our echoes the angels reign, because we learned in patch 5.2 that the echo, as Elidibus put it, is the echo of a symphony, a power that man in his completeness once possessed. It is not from Hydaelyn, as Charlian scholars originally thought it was. It just allows us to hear her, and presumably it would also allow us to hear Zodiark. If the theory that Hydaelyn tempered the Warrior of Light turns out to be true, and Zodiark, of course, we know, tempered the Convocation originally, then that would be asserting a type of dominance or reign over the player, or the Unsundered in Zodiark's case. So the vocalization section here is really tough for me to nail down. Because of how drawn out some of the vocalization is, I'm not 100% certain. But it sounds to me like he's saying, "We're the end." Which that would be him singing it twice. So then we get to the next set of 4 lines. And the syllable count for the first line does match up with the first line that we hear in the song at all, which is 7 syllables. And it could be the same line. I'm not confident on that, just because the way it's been manipulated or filtered or what have you, it doesn't quite sound like "I don't live, but I don't die." There's this weird, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this alteration on just small parts of the words that reminds me of when a game or a TV show plays a wind back feature where there's like this slipping sound to the audio. So it almost makes me feel like they just selected sections of the vocal take and reversed it so that we can't hear what it's actually saying. At least the end of the line rhymes with "die," so it could be the same. This entire section gave me trouble, as you can see by how many pieces I have just isolated here. So the next line which I'm pretty confident on now, is burning brightly and in white. Definitely ends in white. And then the next one is Dream and Drift by the Debt I Wear. Maybe. So the problem I have with this line in particular is there's a lot of homophones that would fit, especially when sung, because debt could also be dead, and then wear could also be wear as in W-A-R-E, as in like a warning, or as in, you know, Khajiit has wares if you has coin. Of all of the lines, I think this is the one that probably drives me the most insane, because I'm not convinced that it's Dream and Drift, but it's the closest that I can get. And then the final line of this section, proud silence that you don't care. One of my problems with this line is, on one hand, it sounds like proud. On the other hand, it kind of sounds like shroud or shrouded. And then that also sounds like but. Which you can really hear the distortion on the start of this one. Especially for the first two words. And then we get to the next vocalization section, which I ended up splitting into two parts, because the first half actually sounds like words to me. The second half, I have absolutely no clue. Because with the second half, it goes from saying on to something that has an S sound in it. And then we also get that kind of like rewind sound effect in here too. The first half, though, it sounds like he's just singing on and on and on and on. Which thematically with the story of the ancients would fit, because they've been at this game, the Assyrians that is, have been at this game for over 12,000 years at this point. I say over because with the reflections being out of sync with the source, we know that over 20,000 years have passed on the 13th before it was destroyed. And that was the first shard that they tried to rejoin. So, if that shard hadn't gone boom, it would be significantly older than that by now. So, whichever, Assyrians were involved on that shard would have lived a ridiculous amount of time there. So, not only does it tie into the theme of just how long the Convocation has been trying to fix the planet, but also it ties into the lyrics of To the Edge and some of the other previous songs where time is a pretty big theme, but To the Edge also has like these major time loop vibes. Like To the Edge has just really interesting themes. But moving on to the next section, which is vocalization again for the tail end of the trailer. This, I'm pretty sure, is returning to the theme of the end. Because it sounds like it starts off with a vocalization of end, then we're the end twice, end is a single word again, in the end, we're the end, end. I think that's pretty compelling. And it would make sense considering that, the expansion is called Endwalker. The theme song is probably called Endwalker. There has to be some theme of end there, right?
When we examine the Endwalker lyrics from a more technical standpoint, we can actually break it down and isolate the vocals to decipher what the lyrics actually sound like. We can start by opening up our equalizer here and starting to isolate the lower and higher bands to try and find where the vocal frequency is actually falling. So we want to get rid of as much of the background noise and instrumentation as we possibly can so that we can better hear what the singer is saying in these vocals here, because it is highly distorted. So as soon as we get to one where the vocals start to be affected, we know we're in the right range, and then we can set those back so that we know what we need to amplify. Once that's applied, we can go ahead and apply our vocal enhancer. And then once we've added our vocal enhancer, we can put on our parametric equalizer once we have a good idea of where that lyric frequency range is. So here it looks like we've got the vocal range isolated and enhanced. So let's go ahead and apply this and see what it sounds like.